Three, two, one. Welcome to the SaaS Pulse Show. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of SaaS Talent. And really excited today. It is so awesome to have people on the show that are in sales and marketing, my brethren, right? So Nate and I have been working the streets of software and tech companies for so many years, right? And we know what it is. We know what it's like these days to get leads, to get sales. It is brutal, but we grind. So wanted to introduce everybody to Nate Webb. He's the Director of Growth and Partnerships at Passage. It's great to have you on the show, Nate.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, so Nate, let's jump right into it here. Sales 101. So what is Passage, right? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background too? Because I always got to do superhero backstory. So tell us about your superhero backstory that got you to Passage, and then tell us what Passage is.
You got it. So to be brief, right, I graduated college in 2008. So that was an awesome time to come out with a liberal arts degree. And, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. Thought about teaching Spanish, taught in India a little bit, but then kind of started to network in the Portland business community. Very fortunate. I have some uncles that have been in the business community here for a long time, and really stumbled into corporate recruiting. So got my start working at a company called Aerotech Engineering, part of Allegis Group, one of the largest staffing companies in the world. Really strong sales environment, right? I mean, 60-hour work weeks, banging the phones, 50 calls a day type of place, and really was what I call my sales boot camp. From there, had an opportunity to manage a team recruiting for Intel Corporation. So really very technical roles, firmware engineers, FPGA designers, and supporting construction companies that were building these big fabs out in Portland. I was able to parlay that into working in creative recruiting. So that was working with advertising companies as well as big brands who needed both technical and creative talent. And that led me to the field of product design. Product design, really is sort of the end-to-end experience that a digital product takes. That's from strategy of, hey, we want to build this really cool app to do X, Y, and Z, all the way to designing that application to fully building and shipping that product. So for the past 9 years, I've had the opportunity to support a variety of different companies and verticals, and really have focused in on working in med tech and clean tech, and that's where we are at Passage Studio. So we're a boutique, so high-end, nimble team. Have friends at Accenture. Accenture's a great company, but it's a little bit of the anti-Accenture model, right? We're going to come in, we're going to do a job, we're going to stick around as long as you need us, and then go on to the next job. And again, that focus is delivering really strong, usable software for certain industries, that are somewhat nascent and need products that are headed to commercialization for the first time.
Nice. Nate, one of the things Nate told me is he's doing a little moving. Take your mic and kind of maybe hold it out a little bit with your finger as you're talking. Just take the mic that's in front of you, just take it out like this. Yeah, because it's hitting. But we're crushing it here. So tell us about, we did some pregame and we talked about Passage Clean Tech, Passage Med Tech. Let's dive in a little bit. What are the solutions? So what's the clean tech solutions? What are the med tech solutions? What's the value?
Yeah, and is my mic doing better?
Yeah, it was just grinding a little bit on your shirt.
My bad. So both these industries, right, I think are experiencing somewhat of a transformation specific to clean tech, right? There's been a lot of macro economic events that have influenced the vertical in the industry, including IRA, right, which is a large piece of legislation really focused on subsidizing and building up a portfolio of renewable energy companies in the US, which is exciting. And so for that industry, you're finding a lot of companies that, for example, we work with what are called EPCs, engineering, procurement, and construction companies. These companies for years have had all their data in Excel sheets, right? It's been very manual processes for a lot of these companies to execute a project. And these projects are massive. Think, 5-year tails, massive solar, farms and batteries are now becoming a really big thing in renewables. So what they really need is software to connect that through line and create much more seamless workflow And what our role is in that is to go in and be consultants and to figure out exactly how that workflow is happening to date. And then our value add in the solution in the clean tech space for Passage is really building a custom front end and then bringing in our technical expertise, right? We have in-house development and a CTO who's fantastic, and doing things like system integration to enterprise tool sets, right? So again, it's a pretty repeatable example. I'm a company, I've been around 10, 15 years, all this data is in Excel. I also have Salesforce, I also have Smartsheets. I might also have things like PV Assist and AutoCAD specific to the industry. What I really need is one place where all my team can go in and really understand what's happening with the project so they're not all working in silos. So that's an example sort of in the construction clean tech space. Another example, as I mentioned, is there's a really big push for home batteries. So a lot of people are now looking at, okay, can I put batteries on my house as the grid is, somewhat unstable in many parts of the country? And in that space, what we're really focused on is a killer consumer application. So you and I as the homeowner can log on easily through a web application, desktop or mobile, and see how our energy is being used, what savings we're getting through putting batteries on, and what kind of rebates that we can get. And then this whole other facet of the space, which is what we actually call blue collar tech. So the folks that are, really, building the solar farms, the folks that are installing the batteries, that industry also suffers from a problem of, manual processes, large PDF standard guides, right? And so folks there, especially ones that are coming to the workforce, 24 to 28, what do they want? They want an app, and so our goal is to basically translate really beefy, standard guides and technical manuals into usable applications so people in the field can do their jobs quicker. And in the med tech space, as we touched on earlier before the podcast, right, we're really focused on patient experience. We just did a really cool project for a large company in Europe focused on MS, right? And this was a three user persona platform. So this was a platform for the doctor. This was a platform for the person experiencing symptoms of MS, as well as the nurse assistant or the physician assistant who's working with that patient. And so in this platform, the doctor can give instructions, a little bit like my chart, right? And then the patient can actually, use the visual designs that we've created to kind of walk through these different exercises, and then it can be tracked. And that's really important for us, right? Understanding that software, whether it's going to be for a patient or consumer customer, it also has to be good for, the back office folks and the doctors themselves, right? Everyone deserves, good software. So those are a couple examples of the solutions that we're focused on in those key verticals.
Yeah, that's great, Nate. I mean, a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs are watching this right now. What is working in terms of getting in the door for you? Right? So I always like to ask that question to the sales. There's new stuff we talked about a little bit earlier, but what's working? Like what would you say is working right now? What are the things not working? Do you have any advice for people listening?
Yeah, great question. It is a challenging environment, for consultancies, as a lot of budgets have been pulled back, and I mean, it's I hate to say it, but it's pretty old school. What's been working for us has been boots on the ground. So going to these conferences, right?
Hmm.
These industries and many industries, as you're aware, are pretty heavily focused on conferences. And since COVID has died down, thankfully, right, the opportunity to meet people in person has really dramatically increased. So I just returned about a week and a half ago from a full week in San Francisco. That was Climate Week. Climate Week is a national event. So there were 450 events over 7 days. I did not attend all, trust me, but I did about 4 a day, and in those events, you're meeting entrepreneurs, you're meeting a lot of startups, right? And you're meeting private equity and venture capital, who we also work with. And in that capacity, you're really starting to build a story. So I attend probably one conference a month, and I know that can be a big investment as an entrepreneur or startup founder. And so other tips I would provide is really going to where these people are congregating, and that can mean finding Slack communities. So there's 2 separate Slack communities specific to clean tech that I'm a part of, and really wanting to participate there and offering up advice. And another space for us that has been successful in the startup realm is working with trade associations. So for example, Clean Tech San Diego is an incredible association of startups, all startups, and they have a program called SEEN. It's basically their version of an incubator. And so what I do is we join these in my roles as a partnerships director. We join these trade associations and we basically offer free discovery workshops. So we have a deck that it's about a 90-minute, call, and this is something that a client would typically pay us to do for 2 to 4 weeks. We compartmentalize that down for 90 minutes. You're not going to get the same experience as kind of working in depth with one of our strategists for 2 weeks, but you are going to get something actionable. Where are you at in your product journey? What are some recommendations that we can provide? And the idea there is really being, a steward of that community. And a lot of these startups may not be able to hire us, right now. But the hope is we do well and kind of offer a few things gratis, and and they'll come back around once they get funding. And then another facet of the business we didn't discuss a lot is we've actually stood up a venture studio ourselves. So we have a small venture studio working with a private equity group in Boston. And in that capacity, we will review companies. We will actually take equity. We've run one successfully through that and help connect them to deal flow. And then the final component of that is I've just done a pretty decent job of creating good relationships with VCs, because what are VCs looking for? The next new hot startup. So in that capacity, I try to do a monthly call with about 3 or 4 specific clean tech VCs, right, that I've created a rapport with. And I just basically offer up introductions free. And I say, Powerhouse VC, which is one of the preeminent VCs in the space based out of Oakland. Do you want to talk with this company I just chatted with in Spokane, Washington, that has a software platform for recycling solar panels? Yes, they have that call. Again, building that goodwill in the community. There's no sort of entanglement with the contract. They don't have to hire Passage. But again, that hope is they remember that Nate and Passage introduced them to a couple of good VC connections. They get that funding. They need app design. They come back around.
I love it. No, I love it. I mean, I'm hearing more and more about conferences. I was out at this event called SaaS Open because I work with a lot of
Oh,
SaaS and
cool.
tech companies, and I'm thinking about going to SaaStr. SaaStr's coming up, I think, pretty soon.
Yeah, I've heard of
But
it.
yeah, no, it's great. I'm hearing conferences all the time. I love conferences. I love to also do the hardcore lead gen. So that's the thing. So I got to get out there. So tell everybody a little bit about just high level product design firm.
Yeah.
What do you do? Right. So like I have an idea in my mind of so Passage, product design firm, like what are you actually delivering? Like what are the
Yeah.
deliverables? What are you building?
That's such a good question, and I've been in this space for a while, and I even, quickly, I had a friend who was an art director before I got in this space, and for years I used to call him, I was like, oh, you do graphic design, And he's like, no, dude, I'm actually, writing, commercials for the Super Bowl, and so once I got into product design, I got a little bit of that, coming my way of like, oh, you kind of do marketing or you're a creative agency, and I have a lot of friends in marketing at awesome creative agencies, that's not what we do. What we do is we focus on product, meaning anything that falls in the digital ecosystem, generally that takes the shape of a mobile application, but a lot of times also it's desktop application. But anything that you're seeing on your phone or you're seeing on your computer, that's a piece of software and that needs to be designed. So our deliverables, kind of a 3 kind of bucket strategy, right? The first is strategy. So we're doing things like doing a competitive analysis. Is there something else out in the market? We're doing what we call very light concepting. So this can take the shape of what we call a hero prototype artifact. We do a lot of our work in a platform called Figma. Figma has really kind of changed the game in product design. It's a really, really powerful platform where our clients, who are, as many are, incredibly busy in the clean tech space, they can jump in at any point and see our progress in the platform called Figma, and they can annotate on that. So once we've done sort of the strategy, we started to concept, sort of build a prototype, we can kind of move that into fully flushed, visual design. That's again where we're adding a little bit more color. We're adding a little bit more look and feel to what the application is going to look like. And then from there, we get into the shipping or the development process, right? And so there's a handoff, and that's where the design and development all come together in a product design firm. Where what we do, it's called a components library if we're building what's called a design system. So it's kind of like a recipe that a company can take internally and can continue to build out their website or their mobile application. We take that components library, we have a seamless handoff with our internal dev team, or to be honest, about 50% of the time, our clients have, dev teams. So you mentioned Latin America. A lot of our clients have teams in Mexico and Argentina, as do we, as well as, places like Israel and abroad. And from there, the application is fully built. We stay on a project, even if there is an internal dev team, to make sure that the app is fully shipped. right? So part of our process and product design is actually getting an app to an app store. I didn't know this until I got into application development, right? But you need a Dun and Bradstreet number to register an application. There's a variety of rules if you're going to the Google Play Store versus the Apple Store. So we help adjudicate that entire process to make sure that the app is fully flushed out, and then it's released. And then there's QA, right? And then as happens many times in product, there's going to be new features. So what we'll do is we'll audit what we did or audit what exists, and then kind of continue to build on from that, right? So an example would be with these home battery companies, all of them really want that consumer application, the application that the homeowner is going to love. But a lot of times then we have to remind them, once that app is out, we really need to focus on the installer. So then we go back and kind of do a second initiative, and this is an example of a project we just did this past quarter, of building, taking again what I said before, a very static guide and then translating into an app. So a lot of times our process can be, build what they want and then kind of slowly, incrementally start building what we then call a larger platform.
Nice, Nate. I actually have a referral for you. One of
Oh,
my one of my tech startup clients. So check them out and let's follow up on this. Blue Quanta.
okay,
Blue
awesome.
Quanta. Basically, they are building a a basically a package platform in Figma.
Okay.
So they're basically building their own Figma component libraries, I believe, like
Yeah,
some type
yeah,
of
yeah.
Figma component library. He's like a all the stuff you just said, like I was like basically I was helping him. So one of the things I do is I help startups a little bit get off the ground, and he's like he's a rock star. Like Blue, just check it out, Blue Quanto. I'll introduce you to him. And he's a rock star in the
Awesome.
space, but he's like a solopreneur, right? And he's trying to grow.
That's awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so talk about a little bit about the challenges that you've been facing. So what have been some of the major roadblocks, the major challenges? Like what are you hearing that's stopping things, and how are you overcoming them?
Yeah, great question. It's a challenging market for sure. Last year was pretty intense, but we held steady, and I think we're going to be profitable again this year, which is fantastic. But I think some of the challenges really are the macroeconomic events that are shaping, where we're at in the economy. For example, in clean tech, solar. So there's been a lot of new laws passed in California, one of the largest solar markets, that have really hurt a lot of the solar developers and contractors there. So therefore, they're not going to invest in software. And then you've just sort of seen, and you're deep in this space and have been doing it quite a long time. Like there's kind of been a reckoning in tech, and it's hard to watch, right? Before passage, most of my customers were enterprise tech companies, so Salesforce and Splunk and Urban Networks, and I worked with these companies for years and years and years. And then I started working in innovation, and sadly, once the economy started to shift, a lot of these innovation teams, right? So an innovation team at a big bank or a big trucking company who's tasked with building a proof of concept of some net new digital or technology strategy, a lot of those groups, started to kind of get the axe. And so you're seeing a lot, talk to people all the time, right? It's kind of this dichotomy on LinkedIn where you're celebrating someone getting a new job, and at the same time, someone's being laid off. It's a pretty interesting market in tech, and and I think for us, it's really about kind of establishing ourselves as subject matter experts in these verticals that really need our services. I've always found with product design, it's not a commodity play. I can't really force a fit. And so it is really falls on relationships and really being there at the right place at the right time, which goes back to conferences and goes back to really having a point of view specific to what our customers need and want, right? Understanding that, if a company is a renewable energy company and they've just, like I said, onboarded a smart sheets or big platform, like these people are moving a mile a minute. So again, how can we go in? And this is a little bit of what I've shifted in my approach the past year. No longer just trying to sell discovery. No longer this idea of like, hey, I'm just going to come in and learn about your business. Because of the advent of Figma and the ability of our senior design team to really start concepting, what I really sell is let's do discovery and concept. So within about a week or two, you're already going to start to see concepts in Figma, so visuals that you can share, hero prototypes that you can get more stakeholder buy-in. So if a new person's onboarded us and he or she or they have an executive committee they have to report to, hey, look what Passage is already doing from a visual perspective, right? Because that catches the attention of stakeholders. And that's been a little bit of how we've overcome, some of this challenge. And then just really also starting small, really small, 10, 20, 30K initial contracts. building things at 25K in low code platforms that used to cost 75K. That's a whole topic we didn't get into today, but we're using things like Flutterflow and Bubble, to do that. So it's been an interesting economy, but we're making it through, and it's starting to see a little bit more momentum pick up across the board.
Hey, Nate, it's been an awesome podcast. I mean, just hats off to you too, starting in talent acquisition and then talking like you're talking now. Impressive. So somebody that's been in recruiting and talent acquisition for a long time, I'm in my brain, I don't think, oh, they become a great salesperson, but you have. So hats off to you on that. But Nate, it's been awesome having you on the show. Looking forward to continuing the conversation, and looking forward to my Eagles crushing your Seahawks. No, I'm just kidding. But so,
I'm a Steelers fan. My family's from Pennsylvania, so it's even worse.
We didn't even
it's
say
worse.
that. I went to school with Mike Tomlin.
That's incredible. Yeah, my family's
I played with Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott.
Oh, no way.
Played at William and Mary, so I played at college.
I saw you play football. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but we'll debrief. We'll catch up here for a few minutes. But Nate, again, awesome having you on the show, and looking forward to just continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Michael. It was a pleasure.